VR won't play much of a role. Hello virtual dreamers, Gregory here. E3 2019 wrapped up about a month ago now, and during it, Microsoft announced their next generation of the Xbox gaming consoles, Project Scarlet. Really, not much earlier, Sony also begun to discuss their plans for the PlayStation 5. Needless to say, but it seems that the next generation of gaming consoles is on its way, which signals exciting times for us gamers. Before I got into game development and PC gaming, I used to be pretty blind to what the specs that were being thrown around could actually mean, but since I've actually built my own PC and started working with UE4, it's really peeled back the curtain quite a bit. So I want to share with you 5 things I think that we can reasonably expect from the next generation of consoles. Number 1. Backwards compatibility. At the beginning of this generation, we learned that both the Xbox One and PS4 are based on the x86 architecture, PCs at their core, and that hardware developed in the future should be more readily compatible with their software. We saw this earlier in the generation with the release of the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, which were stronger, more powerful versions of the consoles that still fully supported the normal console's games and even enhanced them in many cases. With the Ryzen 2 based CPUs and Navi GPUs that have been announced for the new machines, there's nothing to indicate that there should be any compatibility issues whatsoever between the current gen and next gen hardware. As such, your PS4 and Xbox One library should be playable on your next console. If they aren't, it's safe to say that there are some shenanigans on Sony and Microsoft's parts. Number 2. Game worlds are going to become more alive. If you've noticed that this generation has been chock full of open worlds, it's mainly a result of the increased amount of RAM and level streaming making this kind of design more viable. For the upcoming generation, the use of powerful CPUs and solid-state drives, with Microsoft even going so far as to make their SSD into RAM, this should allow for more things to be loaded at once in games, even possibly completely eliminating them after turning on the system. Environments are going to become far more interactive, feature livelier AI, and more opportunities for emergent gameplay. NPCs remembering your last interaction, complex chemistry systems, outright having more things on screen at any given time, such as other NPCs or enemies. There shouldn't be any major restrictions holding back developers from doing what they want to at this point. At the very least, we should hope so. Number 3. Ray tracing won't matter much. If you've been keeping up with PC hardware on the GPU side, you'll no doubt be aware that the new graphical technology of the hour is ray tracing via hardware acceleration. While ray tracing is pretty old now and is actually applicable on just about any hardware, the main marketing points of the next generation will likely be 4K and gameplay improvements from the powerful CPU and memory configurations. These are 2 things that won't play well with a tank in performance ray tracing brings, and we likely won't see it play a role beyond the rare occasion where a game uses it for a small part of rendering, or if the mid-gen refresh consoles begin to emphasize it. Because really, the performance isn't there on the PC side, let alone at 4K, so consoles trying it out seems like a bit of a waste of resources. But that hasn't stopped them from trying things in the past, so who knows if we'll see it from time to time. All things told, it's probably just going to remain a PC luxury feature till the subsequent generation, when it becomes the main selling point of games around 2028 or something. Number 4. VR won't play much of a role. While this may be a VR-focused channel, even I have to admit that our medium of choice isn't going to be a major factor in the next generation of consoles. Despite the increased power of the new hardware, VR demands aren't getting any lower, and with the coming of new hardware like Quest and the likely follow-ups to these kinds of hardware systems, I don't really see the console audience making the transition to VR as a primary focus. It may pop up here and there in the form of a PSVR 2 or Microsoft having integration with Windows mixed reality headsets, but VR capabilities aren't likely to be the main selling force of these devices, and will likely remain a PC and standalone centric market for another generation, if not just becoming something that exists alongside of the consoles independently. Which really though, it just kind of brings me to my final point, which is number 5. Games aren't changing much at all. Despite having far more power on the CPU, GPU, and memory side of things, I don't think games are really going to be all that different. Honestly, I don't think games have changed much gameplay-wise since the PS2 and Xbox days. Game design has certainly gotten more refined, online has enabled us to we connected in much greater ways, but the fundamental experience of playing a game hasn't really changed all that much. Of course, we're still getting a regular supply of great games and things that look better than ever. But can you honestly tell me that console gaming has, as an experience, experienced as great a jump in gameplay since the 3D transition that occurred from the SNES to the PS1, or the gameplay jump of the PS2 to Xbox era when dual analog sticks became the standard? One could argue that virtual reality is that thing, but it's existing almost like its own separate market at this point, and while I'm holding out for more complex physics and such, the quality and complexity of physics in games like Red Faction Guerrilla, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and the Euphoria technology employed by Rockstar makes me think that our limitation in this respect is less based on hardware as much as it is based on development resource allocation and budgeting. A choice to really focus on better graphics, more cinematic experience, and monetization strategies over really pushing the medium forward. Mind you, I don't think the relative lack of change is a bad thing, or really any fault of the industry in itself. In a way, you could see it as a sign of us reaching technological maturity. Progress won't stop, but it's gonna take longer to appreciate it, and I think that the subtle improvements are worth celebrating in their own ways. I'm sure no one wants to go back to the low draw distances of the PS2 era open world titles, or the bloom and desaturated look of the PS3 and 360 era. Don't forget as well that while VR isn't likely to blow up in the mainstream anytime soon, it is a revolution in the making, and it, along with AR, are likely going to provide us with new ways to play and experiences that we've yet to be able to appreciate in full. And you know what? From time to time, this industry has shown a readiness to deliver experiences that floor us, while still being grounded in the tropes that we're familiar with. Remember, these are a list of my expectations, not my predictions. And it is my full hope that almost all of my positive expectations will be met and/or exceeded. Thank you very much for watching this video, everyone. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and be sure to like and leave a comment to let me know what your thoughts on the video are. I did videos recently going over my thoughts on the VR industry at this time, as well as what I think the standard for VR is going to be like. I personally own an Oculus Quest, gaming PC, Nintendo Switch, and 3DS at this point, though the backwards compatible PS5 to catch up on Kingdom Hearts 3, God of War, Bloodborne, and tackle Persona 5 The Royal certainly has a mark on my wallet when the time comes around to it. Check out my affiliate links in the description to pick up an Oculus Quest if you want to help me out, and feel free to join the Discord server linked down below in the description to join us on our quest to create a form of World Seed from Sword Art Online using UE4 in an open source and free way. Till next time, my fellow adventurers and dreamers, this has been Gregory, logging out.